The Bible applies to all of life, period, including anxiety and depression. So whether there's explicit verses that you would go to, or just in general, the Bible speaks to all of life. So, of course, it's going to have things to say about anxiety and depression. There are direct things like Jesus in Matthew 6. Some of you know this passage, Matthew 6, where Jesus says, look, I take care of the birds of the air and the lilies of the field, and you are more valuable to me than them. Would I not also take care of you? That is significant for people dealing with anxiety, and does God care for me? Worrying, and he says, do not worry. He begins that Matthew 6 passage, do not worry. Do not be anxious about anything about your life. I take care of these things. I will take care of you. Now, that's not to just say that you put a spiritual Band-Aid over people who have deep anxiety and other kind of more chemical imbalances and various things. So I'm not saying that is like a blanket answer. If you struggle with anxiety, just read Matthew 6. That's not what I'm saying. But you do start with Matthew 6. The gospel being sent in the heart and the words of Jesus, that is healing for the soul. So there are obviously, without knowing all the ins and outs of the severity of anxiety and depression or whatnot, there is a helpful book that I would recommend. It's called Blame It on the Brain by Ed Welch. He's just a Christian counselor who really, I think, wisely walks through when is medication helpful, when is it not necessary. A lot of people jump to a physical solution to a spiritual problem. And yet there are others, because of the compounding effects of sin and hardship in life, that you really kind of need both. You need the spiritual, that's the foundation. But yes, at some point, some people really just, they need medication. So there's a lot of discernment and wisdom that goes into that, and it's case by case. But that's what I would say. And I would further say, when it comes to anxiety and depression, just things that we all feel living in a broken world. There's a lot of comfort that you get from the Bible writers. Job, you read the book of Job, man, he is suffering. There's a lot of hardship, and there's a lot of processing through, and yet there is a fidelity to God. So the Bible is actually pretty honest about humanity's troubles. If you read the Psalms, there's a lot of lament psalms. It gives you voice to say, man, I'm struggling. And God identifies and sees it. So, yeah.
So you're also not propagating against the use of medication if it's really needed. Correct. You can say that if you have diabetes, you would take medication, right?
Yeah.
If you have a need for anxiety or depression, you could take medication.
Yeah.
Just because those weren't available in the times the scriptures were written doesn't mean that they're not useful.
And we have doctors in our congregation that are great stewards of learning and able to bring God's healing hand to people. Yes, medication. We're in a place where, by God's grace, there are helpful things that God has brought along and brought knowledge to humanity, and we're in a really privileged place compared to a lot of human history, right?
Amen.
You have diabetes, you can start taking this medication. I would never say stop praying, just do that, right? But we're not just going to say, oh man, you got some physical issues or whatever. Just pray to God. No, of course, your disposition is trusting God. God can do all kinds of things, but He also, in His providence, has worked about natural remedies and brought people who can do those and bring those. So, yeah. Again, it's case by case, right? Someone comes to me and they really struggle, they get all the stress in their life and stuff. Well, I'm not going to, my knee-jerk reaction isn't going to be, you need to go see a therapist, you need to go see a doctor. Now, it may become obvious, there's something here, and but I'm gonna point people to Scripture first and foremost. There's again, spiritual problems need spiritual healing.